So I just watched this little response Owen Benjamin did regarding Jordan Peterson's now infamous tweet yesterday about Judge Kavanaugh and what had happened regarding his appointment. And I felt I should just do a small commentary on this because even if you're not familiar with Owen Benjamin and you're not interested in politics, I don't want to take a political view with this channel necessarily. I want to comment on something that Jordan Peterson has always felt was very important, and what Jordan Peterson I felt, or what I thought he was fighting for from the start, or at least one of the things he was fighting for from the start, was the value of freedom of speech and the value in publicly being able to speak your mind. And how that is relating to what's happening now with his tweet. So that's what my commentary is going to be about, is refocusing this back to those first principles, if you would, that Jordan started with. And if you're not familiar with Owen Benjamin, he's someone who has been torn apart by the left, by the media, by social justice mobs in about the last year or so, maybe a little more. I started supporting him on Patreon as I supported Jordan Peterson when Jordan Peterson was in some trouble early on. And I still support Owen Benjamin because I think he's a good person and he means well. And he's a smart guy. He was in the intellectual dark web for a few moments at least, and then he rejected it. So he's friends with Eric Weinstein, if you're not familiar with. Again, I'm trying to explain to people who may not be familiar with Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin he's a comedian by profession, and he's, like I said, he's friends with Eric Weinstein. He knows Shapiro. He knows. He doesn't know Jordan directly, but he did interview Jordan on his podcast or his web show, his YouTube channel. So he knows people around Jordan. He's been on the Rubin Report, I think, 2 times. He's been on Joe Rogan like 3 times in the last year and a half or so. So he's pretty well known if you're not familiar with him. He's also well known for being smeared and tarred and feathered, like I said. He's not actually anything people say he is. They'll call him a racist and so forth, but he's not at all that. So like I said, I'm going to play this video and I'm going to try to add in some commentary as I feel necessary, because what I think Owen is expressing is something that's being widely expressed in the Jordan Peterson community, if you will, if you want to think about it that way. And I think there's definitely reason for acting the way he's acting and speaking the way he's speaking about these things. It's justified, but there's also another side of this that I want to bring to light as well.
There's people that kind of are more educated, but there's some bad shit going on, man. Sam Harris is horrifying. Sam Harris is like an atheist evangelical. I said that on Dave Smith's pod today. I highly recommend you listen to the part of the problem we just did. I'm cool with the tapped out atheists that are like, dude, I don't even want to get involved in that shit. I just don't believe in shit. I'm like, fine. It's the Sam Harris evangelical atheists that are like, everyone must believe that nothing means anything. I'm like, you guys are fucked.
Again, I'm trying to explain this because to an audience that probably isn't too familiar with Owen Benjamin. But Owen he used to call himself a liberal. He used to be in Hollywood. He used to be represented by, you'll hear him say, CIA. And at first I actually found that kind of confusing because he was talking about CIA conspiracies, and I thought he meant the government agency, but there's actually a talent representation agency called CIA out in California, I guess, somewhere, that has picked up Jordan Peterson as one of their talent, and they are representing him. They're putting him on the Oz show, as he did recently. They're popularizing Jordan Peterson, and so there's dangers that go with this, and Owen is very familiar with the dangers that go with being represented by people that run CIA, being lured into that Hollywood bubble, if you will. And so Owen is talking about things as an insider. So he does have some insight that we as outsiders might not have. So pay attention, even though he's very emotional here, because, as he says, Jordan was, or maybe still is, his hero, and he feels like his hero has just fallen flat on his face right in front of him. And it's just such a big misstep from Owen's perspective that he's gotten very worked up, obviously.
I don't know. This is bad, dude. If anybody wants to talk about any of this Jordan Peterson shit, I cannot stand Sam Harris. Dude, it's not going to affect us. This isn't going to divide normal people. We're normal people, guys.
Oh, yeah, so I meant to say in my previous pausing there, I initiated that pause and interjection because he was talking about Sam Harris, and he used to, as a liberal person out in Hollywood, Owen used to follow Sam Harris, and he enjoyed a lot of the Sam Harris discussions. And it's when Jordan Peterson started coming on the scene that the scales started falling from Owen's eyes, and he started to see things a little bit more clearly, and he started to see and experience Sam Harris in a different way. So if you would, Owen may be one of Jordan Peterson's bread-pilled people.
Guys, this is what most people think. Most people are backed into a leftist corner because they think everyone else does because of the fucking media, and because of colleges, and because of social media, and people like me being silenced and kicked off everything. And then everyone doesn't post because they don't want to lose all their pictures on Facebook. That's all it is. It's just sad watching these champions go down. You can't hang with the devil and win. They aren't the... Owen, please explain how IDW is a Jewish conspiracy. I'm not saying it's a Jewish conspiracy. I don't like saying shit like Jewish conspiracies because it sounds too much like actual anti-Semites, that I am not one of them. I do not believe the Jew is responsible for the world's problems. That's insane. It's a leftist conspiracy. And the conspiracy is this. They got a bunch of dudes that were gaining followers with young men, right? And they're intellectuals and they're leftists, and they acted like our buddies, and that they supported masculinity and to have conversations about conversations about conversations. And then when shit was needed, when the power started shifting, they all clicked into place like Voltron. Do. Kavanaugh's a punk. Don't trust him. We need... Eric fucking Weinstein just said we need a magical healer. That's mysticism. Sam Harris I've seen go down a while ago, but Jordan Peterson, that's fairly heart-wrenching. That not only did he get it wrong, but then he tried to muddy his own waters with fucking stupid words.
So if you're not familiar with Jordan Peterson's tweet, he said something along the lines of that if Kavanaugh is, if he's appointed successfully to the Supreme Court, that he should then step down, and that would somehow prove his innocence or something, and then someone less divisive should be put into place. So like I said, I don't want to get into the politics of it, but if you want to look at something that Owen is going to comment on, it's what I would call a cultural precedence. And just like there's precedence in law, I think there's obviously precedence in culture and behavior on a large scale in a society. So if someone only needs to be smeared in public and have accusations made in public, and there's no founding and there's no trial, there's nothing to back up the accusations, there's no criminal justice system carrying out justice in order for ramifications to take place, such as someone is taken off of the Supreme Court or not allowed to be on the Supreme Court merely through accusations, that's a very bad cultural precedent. That's something we haven't had. I don't think we've had in this country. And if you want to take it down a certain religious road, who is the accuser in the Bible, in theology? The accuser is Satan himself. I'm I'm not getting into the politics here. I'm not applying this to the politics right now. I'm just talking theology. The accuser is Satan, and to have just an accusation move the pieces on the chessboard, as it were, it's not good. It's not good at all. After the accusation, there needs to be some kind of justice. There needs to be a trial. There needs to be evidence shown, and then you can get to something that's divine. But an accusation itself should not be grounds for anything like this.
We need to stick together despite differences to fight the lefty mob. He is the left. What about? There is no differences. Do you believe in due process or no? Do you believe that an accusation is guilt or no? Yes or fucking no? This isn't like, how do you feel about the tax on dairy? Or like, what kind of music do you like? Or what do you think the role, like how fluid is gender within the two genders? What they're trying to do is create mob rule right in a tipping point moment in America. This is like Dred Scott, Board of Education shit. This is big. Brett Kavanaugh is a Boy Scout. There is no credible evidence. There is no credible witnesses. There is no corroboration. The left said, quote unquote, we will do anything to stop him.
And how many times has Jordan Peterson had his name smeared in the media? Countless times. They tried to drag him down, and countless times he bobbed and weaved and fought his way out of that, each time growing in strength because he was on the side of truth, right? So one of the things Jordan talks about is the importance of truth and the truth in speech and that kind of thing. And what I want to get to, the heart of my commentary over and above what Owen has to say and sort of critiquing what he has to say, is that the true speech that Jordan was putting forth, Jordan was not lying when he put forth what he said, though that was his true opinion. Now, it went out into the public realm and into his circles of his social circles, right? So he has a close social circle, maybe with his family and close friends, and then maybe he has these intellectual dark web folks such as the Weinstein brothers, and then it moves on from there. And now his CIA representatives are also commenting on everything he does, and believe me, his Twitter is definitely monitored, and they definitely try to approve and disapprove things that he says, or make him retract things and so forth. But once you put the speech out there into the public and into the different social spheres that you belong to, you're going to get feedback, and that's the important part of this free speech fight, is that you need to have a way to get feedback from society and from your social groups to see and correct your beliefs. Because if you're putting something out there like something that's anti-Semitic, you're going to get negative feedback in our society, and our society will correct you, saying you should not say things and you should not think those things. And then you could think about it and say, yeah, you know what, that's the wrong way to think about things. What is the right way? Let me try another way. And then you're going to get feedback again. So what Jordan got was a strong, resounding no. That's not the right way to think about this Kavanaugh situation, at least from his base of followers. And so now we're going to see what happens in the coming days and weeks regarding how Jordan deals with that feedback. I know he then put up another tweet saying it's complicated, this and that, but we're going to have to let this play out and see how does he deal with all of this negative feedback. How does his mind change? And you're going to see Owen bring up a point that Jordan says, and Jordan's point is never apologize to a mob. I don't see Jordan as apologizing to a mob so much as trying to correct his beliefs after having feedback from the public.
How is that okay? That is a fundamental problem. And so that is the left. Jordan Peterson is the left. Now, he's inspired me. I'll always love him. It's just like Rogan in a lot of ways, where it's like, but this is a war, man. This is a cultural war. And if we win this culture war, there will not be real war. There will not be concentration camps. There won't be gulags. It'll be a reality. It'll be a possible reality that will never happen. And God bless the fact that that dies as a probability that never happens if we win this culture war. This leftist...
So there you might be hearing a little bit of Jordan Peterson again, and what Owen's saying is that the idea will die instead of real people dying. So the bad ideas of the gulags and all these different things that could stem from this culture war, this radical leftist ideology that Jordan's actually trying to fight against, that those bad ideas will hopefully die in this culture war instead of those ideas ascending to power and then actual people dying in a real kind of war.
Postmodern bullshit has to be called out, even if it's one of your fucking heroes. He's one of my heroes. When I got to interview him, it was one of the highlights of my life.
And you can definitely tell Owen is very genuine about what he feels about Jordan Peterson and how he's thinking about it and how much this is affecting him personally, emotionally. He's disturbed by what he saw. And I kind of mentioned that at the start of this. But what I see Jordan Peterson is, yes, he is heroic. He's putting on the divine individual garb and acting out the story of a hero from many perspectives. But he's not the hero. He is sort of a vessel to get us, or a gateway to get us, or a lens. I sometimes use the word lens, to get us to look at things maybe that we haven't looked at, maybe to get to look at things in a different way, to consider things in a different light. But it's not about him. And Jordan has said this too, that he's riding the wave. Now he's talking about the new medium that is YouTube. Like, what does that mean as far as technologically? Is it equivalent to the Gutenberg printing press? Well, he says actually in a lot of ways it's more significant than the Gutenberg printing press, because only a small fraction of people could read back then, and today we know virtually everybody, unless you're hearing impaired, but even hearing impaired people can read captions. Everybody can listen, and everybody can listen and understand many times easier and better after having listened to something than after having read it. So Jordan says he's riding a wave. He isn't the wave. He says don't confuse yourself for the wave when something like this happens. I think that's all correct. And I think, you could get caught up in hero worship. You could get caught up in the man himself too much. And I don't view it that way. I don't allow myself to get that close, even though you may think, well, you have a whole YouTube channel that's basically all about Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, like I said, is the lens and the gateway to get us to other things. And you'll notice it got me to William Blake. It got me to Northrop Frye and philosophy and poetry and theology and all kinds of other things that I may not have considered recently. It's gotten me back into Karl Barth, re-examining that, and so forth. So there's a lot of different things. I'm examining an old book I bought that has, it's about the resurrection of Jesus, and it's a conversation that N.T. Wright had about the resurrection of Jesus. So there's some N.T. Wright mixed into my reading now too. So he's just a gateway. He's just a lens. If he goes down, it's expected. And Jordan said from the beginning, he expects to go down, so to speak, at any moment. And something he could do could end this little wave he's riding on. And the wave has just been getting bigger and bigger, which means there's more and more spotlights on him. There's more laser focus and attention on everything he does. And that's why one tweet right now could upset so many people.
I've listened to everything he's ever done. He pulled me out of darkness. He inspired me. But that being said, I listened to the guy, and what he's doing right now is what he said to watch for. And if you think this is a difference of opinion, you are being morally relative.
This is interesting because it's almost like the importance of going to church and having other people in your belief community. Because when you do go astray, or when your leader is going astray, you all need each other to correct. You can't just rely on self-correction all the time. And that's why the body of Christ, the body of believers, they're always in conversation with each other, or ought to be at least, and they're always kind of poking and prodding and pinching and pulling and pushing, molding the belief structure and each other's beliefs little by little and bit by bit over time to correct for anything that might be disastrous. And maybe this is why, or one of the reasons why, the church has lasted for so many, well, now what, almost 2,000 years, considering, I guess you could say, small type of churches developed, under Paul's foundation and so forth. It's that correcting mechanism that's built into having a congregation that actually congregates and worships and talks to one another and gives this feedback. This is the public speech importance of public speech. And again, you can see how when that gets corrupted, let's say around Luther's time, there might have been some corruption with this, where he had to nail his theses on that church and openly speak.
Doing exactly what he said not to do. There is right and there's wrong. It has nothing to do with how you feel about Judge Kavanaugh. If you do this, if you make it so that an accusation by a known liar, someone proven to lie, who couldn't even remember the year it happened, and you think that person should lose everything, be smeared on every newspaper, mocked, his family threatened, just because of an unprovable accusation, you're a leftist, you're a socialist, and you got to be able to pull the plug on people when you realize that. And then his explanation?
This comment about being a socialist. It's interesting. I'm far from a socialist. Again, I don't want to make my channel all about politics, but I guess sometimes you can't help it. But so I'm far from a socialist, but this is something that's coming up in my my intro to Karl Barth video about what looks, I don't know anything about the person who made the comments, but it brings up some comments that Barth made about socialism and other such things. And I think I'm gonna actually save my comments about that for another video. Not that I want to elevate certain comments above others. I get a lot of really good comments. You guys really teach me a lot of things, which I appreciate. And I appreciate this person's commentary on Barth and bringing up the comments he made about socialism. And oh yeah, the other one was about atheists being Christians, which should sound familiar if you're a fan of Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, that's one of the things that riles up Matt Dillahunty and Sam Harris, is him calling them Christians. So the fact that Barth has this little paragraph about atheists being Christians, and then people who profess their belief but then act like heathens, they're not quite as saved as they think they are. I don't think these are that controversial of statements, but like again, I'll make a separate video commenting on that, because there's a lot I want to say to this person who made the comments. And again, I appreciate the comments. I'm glad they made them. I think, if you want to offer a balanced view or something you think that I neglected in the video, or maybe you want to warn people about Karl Barth, that is perfectly wonderful, and I'm again glad that you made those comments. But I want to say things that I just don't have time to type out on my phone. A lot of times I see a comment, it comes up on my phone, and I can just like it or love it, or I can say a few words. But now I have maybe a little bit more time this afternoon where I can settle down and I can expound upon what I really wanted to say regarding those comments, because there's actually a lot of things happening regarding that little comment there on the Barth video, and I sort of anticipated it in the Barth video. You'll notice that I said if you hold certain doctrines, religious beliefs very dear and close to your heart, and you can be affected by something you might hear me say, quoting Barth, that you have to understand that I'm pulling things sort of out of a huge context. And well, I'll just save the comments for that video.
Wait a minute, what did you just say? He said Kavanaugh should step down. He said even if Kavanaugh gets his dream, This dude who's a judge who could become on the Supreme Court, that he should step down because of accusations? I've heard tons of people call Peterson a Nazi.
Yeah, and I just, again, forgot that the reason why I did that last pause and interjection is because, so socialism was brought up, and obviously there's problems with socialism and what it could lead to, and that's what Owen is fearing. And that's what maybe, you know, that could be a bad side of Karl Barth. But it's not what Barth is known for. It wasn't his profession. It wasn't his area of expertise. He was not an economist. I think, like most pastors and theologians, they sort of lead with their hearts, and they want to believe that Marxism, socialism could be fixed and worked for the benefit of the downtrodden. And I'm not surprised that pastors generally a lot seem to tend towards the socialist. And don't forget, he's also in the heart of Europe, so you know they see things quite a bit differently over there than we do in America. And if you're going to filter out people based on certain one criteria or the other, or this one said one bad thing then, or maybe they had a bad belief according to you, you're going to filter out basically everybody. And I'll get into that in my specific commentary on that comment on my Barth video later on this afternoon.
A misogynist, evil. What did I say? I said, fuck you guys. Why? Prove it. Prove that Peterson's a Nazi. And they're like, oh, well, I just feel that he is. Fuck you. Peterson's a good man. You can't...
So some of you may not like all this cursing, but that is the raw emotional state that Owen is experiencing, and he's expressing himself with a lot of cursing. So I didn't put up any kind of warning, but I guess maybe some of you might have appreciated a warning that there's a lot of cursing in this video.
Prove he's a Nazi, and your gut feeling, your accusations mean nothing. It's crazy, dude. I've seen it coming, but I didn't want to like, I always knew the intellectual dark web was bad. Always. I was in it. They put me on the website. I rejected it because you can't hang with the devil. You can't do that. And you watched him click into place. And God bless Ben Shapiro, right? The dude was like, Jordan Peterson, listen, you're a good dude, but you're totally wrong on this Birch Gold. Good for him. Good for Ben Shapiro. All right, I'm going to rewind this down. He can't step down. If he steps down, it's admission of guilt. The left will pounce on him. Jordan Peterson said, quote unquote, do not apologize to a mob.
Right, and I brought that up earlier. The other thing is Jordan is looking for a sort of Solomon-like way to end this debate about Kavanaugh, and to come up with a solution that is what Brett Weinstein wanted, a sort of miraculous healer to come up with this ingenious way of solving the problem. So Jordan said, well, look, let's let him get appointed. The process will go through as it does, and since he's a judge, and maybe he's sensitive to the people's opinion of the country, maybe he has some wisdom, maybe he'll see fit to step down, to have the power to be duly appointed, and then say, in consideration of so many people, I will step down and let someone else take my place. But the problem is, as Owen said, that may sound like a good Solomon-esque solution that solves every angle of this, but it really doesn't. What it does is set a bad cultural precedent that all you need is a shame mob, all you need are accusations, and if that's the bar we're going to set as a society, God help us, because we're going to need the power of God to get through what will come after that.
Do not apologize to a mob, quote unquote, Jordan fucking Lobster Peterson. He is now asking Judge Kavanaugh to apologize to a fucking mob. Will that vindicate him? They will eat him. His daughters will be called the daughters of a gang rapist the rest of their lives, a shamed man. Even his own people, even Kavanaugh's own people will now question whether or not it's true because he stepped down in the face of any adversity because he was scared of looking at the devil in the face and saying, I am a good man. Allow me to judge people. That's what Peterson is asking. For this great man, for everything I see about Kavanaugh, he's a great man. To tell him and his family, because families are units. If I go down, if I get killed, my kids don't have a dad. My wife doesn't have the love of her life, the provider, her big bear, her guy, the person she loves. If I get shamed and humiliated, that goes against them. They have to deal with that. So Jordan Peterson asking this man to step down and apologize to a crazy, female tyrannical mob puts a 10-year-old girl at the front of this. Fuck him. Dude's a professor with balls who stood up against the very shit he's now asking people to do. Makes what, $500,000, $700,000 a month? Starts trimming his mustache different, like his facial hair. Looking all elegant, always wearing vests. Listen, I saw some of this shit coming. I was repped at CAA. They started the Me Too movement. That's where Jordan Peterson's repped. Having New York Times articles about him, that means you're controlled opposition. But I'm not about to talk that shit because I want him to keep inspiring people for what he once stood for. He's fucked, and fuck him.
Owen just used some rhetorical techniques there, mentioning things that you say you're not going to mention, sort of as being polite, but you are still mentioning them. You went down the laundry list there. His father is a professor of rhetoric, so Owen is sort of steeped in how to speak to the public and and what rhetoric actually is. And even though he may not sound so eloquent whenever he curses, it's for a reason. He knows what he's doing.
Not the man he once was, but what he just asked people to do is evil. And you got to be able to turn against evil when you see it. Because a culture war is bloodless. It's with words. A real war, people die. And let's fucking not have that. All right, much love. I got to go. The sun is literally setting behind me. It's very metaphorical. All right, don't bend the knee. Never bend the knee. Obviously, just you guys know that. I'm not worried about you guys. There's gonna be some cult-like Peterson people that, dude, no one's a bigger fan than me. Like nobody. Dude inspired me. Like changed my life. I got my mom to read the fucking book. It's like, but you're not really a fan of what he taught you if you apologize to a mob, especially if you're innocent.
All right, so he's just going to wrap up here, repeating his final points. But you could tell he's very sincere. Jordan Peterson really did change his life. He really looked up to him. And this is the problem if you get too attached to the man instead of the message. But what Owen is doing is he is calling out what he sees as hypocrisy, instead of just being a cult-like follower of Jordan Peterson. So he was close. He held him to high esteem and high regard, but he's not holding him so close that he can't criticize his hero as well. And that's what we should all do. We should always be open to criticism for ourselves and for the people we look up to, and not just turn a blind eye to people that have helped change us for the better. So if you like this sort of thing, please give the video a like and subscribe. Thank you.
Well, there's a guy who's got a little YouTube channel, and I've been sending a lot of people his way, Node in a Network, and he's basically been reading all of the stuff in the footnotes of Maps of Meaning,
where we're also plugged in as like nodes on the network.
Node in a network, there's a good username.
A node in a network.
The wrong model, because you're at the center of a network. You're a node in a network.